My name is Jo Mason-Smith and I'm the Director of Corporate Marketing and Engagement at CSQ, and on behalf of the team I'd like to welcome you all to the launch of our annual ATP. Thank you very much for coming bright and early this morning. To start with, I'd like to invite our Chairman Graham Carpenter to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning all. Welcome to the launch for the ATP here this morning. We do have, or we are expecting, the member for Capalaba who's representing the Minister for Education, Training and Employment, but we understand he's slightly delayed. So without Mr Steve Davies being here, I will take a time to welcome him, and we'll hopefully see him shortly. Construction Skills Queensland is focusing on future workers, apprentices and trainees. Construction Skills Queensland seeks to demonstrate and add value to industry by developing initiatives, upskilling workers, providing advice and being responsive. The skills and programs offered in our annual training plan, and you should all have a copy of it here this morning, have been targeted to ensure that we meet market needs and deliver the best outcomes for industry. This year, we are providing 8,000 more training places than last year. Our biggest challenge is to be ahead of the demand and provide the right skills in the right place at the right time, and that's a challenge. Our core programs are driven by ongoing consultation with industry. At this stage, I'd like to commend CEO Brett Schimming and his team for their professionalism in the drafting, in consulting, in seeking feedback from industry, in drafting and putting that plan for consideration by the Minister. So we're excited about what the future holds, and with your help, we are creating a culture of skills and training within our industry. So welcome this morning, enjoy the opportunity, and I think we look forward to hearing shortly from our CEO. Thank you.
We're now going to welcome Brett Schimming, CEO of CSQ, to the stage.
Welcome to Industry Leaders, and we've specifically this morning picked you as industry leaders because we'll be running a range of these events across Queensland over the next 2 months. Welcome to Graham, directors of CSQ. Welcome Neil Castles, Director General, Public Works and Housing, and Jim Watterson, Director General, Education, Training and Employment. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending. It's important that our relationships with industry leaders, with union leaders, with government leaders is key to how we shape this industry going forward. And we certainly will be an active part in a conversation over the next 2 days with Construction Q, where we're actually playing a lead role in shaping the skills conversation for the 20-year plan. 2014-15 has seen a new normal start to settle into this industry. We've come off of those heavy engineering large projects which dominated the conversation. We're heading back to residential, commercial and civil, to an environment that is seeing us operating in and around that $35 billion space. So CSQ's levy is planned to be $35 million. But we know that we made our conscious decision to create a future fund some years back. And my board said, put it away for a rainy day. And over the last financial year and this financial year coming, we're releasing $10 extra million to skill Queensland. So the rainy day money is being used to ensure that we can continue to meet the demands going forward. And that is why our program this year is $45 million. We knew this day was coming, and we've got a plan right through till 2020. So we're seeing our skilling level return to normal levels. We're seeing the mix start to even out, but it doesn't mean we should take our eye off the ball. This morning you'll hear about this year's program to meet the current demand environment. But I want to talk a little bit about the future. My team will talk about the current environment, but our future, our workforce, and what's the world going to look like? For us, our attention is on the new entrants, the school leavers and those that want to transition into this industry. Who are they? Where are they? And how are we going to attract them to our industry? Our industry has an ageing profile. And Construction Skills Queensland needs to think about where the future work is going to come from, what will they look like, what will the jobs be, what will the future of a construction site, the mix of labour, materials, what technologies and what methodologies will be in train. We've started to think about that because we know that if we keep doing what we're doing today, we will not be a competitive industry. We will not be able to respond to the changing nature of this industry. We're also thinking about who's going to do the training, because to rely on the usual suspects to do all the usual training, we're not so sure. Our intelligence and our listening from industry is saying it's getting a bit tough out there to do the training. So we're concerned about one pathway of training in will be too narrow. We're looking for flexibility, we're looking for multiple entrants, and we're looking for who will do the training going forward. Because small business are saying to us, it's getting a little difficult, it's getting a little tough to be competitive. So this is the conversation we're taking to industry right now. This is the conversation that we're saying it might be different, it might be varied, it might be a little bit of what we do today and a little bit of something we don't know about. And we've taken the responsibility as the thought leader for our industry, as the group of people who are going to spend some time researching what other countries are doing, what other industry sectors are doing, about where is our workforce coming from. Because rest assured, other industries are thinking about it. It's a competitive sport attracting a workforce, and we're taking it very seriously. You'll be able to follow our thoughts, follow our conversations, and follow what we're hearing from industry using your favourite channel, whether that's Facebook, certainly not mine, I'm still struggling with that, whatever your social media avenue is. But our job is to continue to create the conversation and have some tension in the water about what are we going to do for our workforce going forward. And all of you in this room, in your various roles, in your various engagements with young people in our society, understand what I'm talking about. So this morning, we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing today. But rest assured, while my team's working on the here and now, there's a small group of us starting to talk about what's it going to look like in 2018, 19 and 20. And that's the conversation that some of you will get the opportunity, should you wish, to join us to shape what it's going to look like. And that'll be the tone of what we'll set across the road this morning and tomorrow in Construction Q, because I think it's important. We can't keep on keeping on and expect to be able to respond in what will be a new society and a new era of how we work. Thanks for your time this morning. Thanks for coming. Rest assured that your colleagues, your associates are able to join us across some 15 or 16 events around the state over the next 2 months, which we'll advertise and share with you all. And I'd like to welcome Paul Hodgson, General Manager of Strategy, to start the process of giving you a thumbnail sketch of what we're doing over 2014-15. Thank you for your time.
So while residential as a whole is going up a little bit, commercial's dropped quite considerably, down almost 30% between the 2 years statewide. Although strong growth on the Gold Coast, you can see this change in the new other residential here. So this part here is higher density residential. And if we look at even over the last 10 years, the percentage of residential building approvals in multi sort of high density, multi-res, as opposed to single dwellings. We've seen a change from about 34% being in the multi-res market up to about 46% in the last year. So there's quite a big change. It's almost coming up to a one-to-one relationship between single unit dwellings and residential. So what we're seeing out of that as well is that while the number of building approvals might be going up per residential unit, we're actually seeing the value of declining, because obviously you don't build one-bedroom houses, but you might build one-bedroom apartments in a building. And that's just what I was saying there. So the dwelling approvals are up 16.7%, while the total value is down 1.1%, and that's directly a result of that sort of higher density building activity. So when we look at the Queensland Master Builders Association latest survey of industry conditions, we're seeing sentiment positive. It's down a little bit, so there's still a little bit of I'm feeling optimistic, but still not quite yet seeing the activity to justify that optimism. So it's reasonably good though. So the Sunshine Coast is quite positive, and I think that's probably off the back of strong residential approval figures. Certainly not in the commercial space, where I suspect people who are involved in the Sunshine Coast University Hospital know whether they are involved or not at this stage. But some of the others may not be. And if we look down them, so below 50% means a slightly negative, more increasingly negative sense of the market. So Mackay's really the only one down the bottom that's feeling negative. Central Queensland 50 is right on the sort of cusp of being negative or positive, depending on whether you're a glasses half full or glasses half empty type of person. But generally reasonably positive. So the sentiment probably driven by approvals, but not yet into activity, and certainly not in residential and commercial activity to offset the decline in engineering construction. And if we look at employment across 7 years, it's reasonably, it's slightly up and down, but it's pretty stable, which suggests that even with some of this quite large changes in the mix of construction activity, that the transition between various subsectors and the return of FIFO workers and the like seems to be working through the system quite effectively. And if we look at the pipeline for apprentices and trainees, the last year, 2013, we actually saw an increase in the number of apprentices in the system for the first time for a number of years. If you look at the figures back in 2007, we had 27,000 and almost 28,000 in 2008 in construction. And it sort of drifted back and back and back, and now it's sort of added another few hundred up into almost 22,000. And we're seeing this mix, and it's not, partly if you look at the engineering construction activity, if you look at this movement from single dwellings as part of the mix into much more sort of townhouse and residential tower development, then we're starting to see a change in the skills mix of people entering the training market. And the biggest change, I suspect, which probably Rob Rowe would be very happy with here, is this 29% in 2013 into the civil construction sector, from 14% in both 2009 and 2011. So we're seeing that change, and we're seeing a little bit of a drift back in general construction. A lot of the sort of engineering trades, steel fixing, concreting, plant operation, much more prevalent in the higher density residential, and certainly obviously in the civil and engineering construction sectors. That's slightly less reflected in the in-training, as it would be, but we're still seeing now 13% of apprentices and trainees in the construction industry are in civil, as opposed to 5% and 7% in 2009 and 2011 respectively. So that was just a quick snapshot of the industry demand. All of our skilling and procurement, work response is driven by that demand. And so we're looking at the overall prospects remain positive. There are these regional and sectoral transition, and they're proceeding as expected. So About 6 months ago when we were out talking about this type of thing, we were sort of saying, well, we thought we'd reach peak engineering construction activity. The graphs have actually shown, the data has shown that that was the case and that was the peak back at the early start of 2014. And we're still seeing some major projects in the pipeline. So the big ones, I guess, that we're tracking at the moment are the Adani's Carmichael Mine and Rail and the Aqueous project. But there's also the Toowoomba Second Range Crossing, there's the Gateway North, there's the Bat Tunnel. I understand the environmental impact statement was released yesterday. So some of these things are moving along, and the green light will make quite a change in particularly some of those regional areas. When we're in Mackay, they're very much talking about the Carmichael Coal Project. When we're in Cairns, they're very much talking about the Aqueous integrated casino development up there. So watch this space on those projects. So that's it for the demand side. I'd now like to introduce my colleague Susan Armstrong, who's our Director of Strategic Policy, to give you an overview of the Annual Training Plan 2014-15. Thank you very much.
All right, good morning. I hope everyone enjoyed their breakfast. I was too nervous about speaking, so I haven't been able to partake yet, unfortunately, but I'll get over that after the end of this. So as Paul has indicated, our industry is a little bit different now than it was 12 months ago, and as Brett said, that's reflected in the levies that have been collected and are available for CSQ to invest back into the industry. So again, as Brett mentioned, it's actually a $35 million investment, but we've topped that up with our strategic reserves of $10 million to bring it to a total of $45 million available for investment this year. And as Paul said, that's reflective of the decrease in the mega and major projects coming off the construction phase and into the operational phase, and the declining pipeline of major projects, together with some of those, an increase in the residential activity, but a decrease in the commercial. And it's a little bit about the impact of the levy changes as well that were introduced from 1 July. So what we have to do is we've got to try and maintain our service delivery and the level of investment that we make in training outcomes for the industry with less. And Graham mentioned the fact that even within a reduced budget, we're still delivering 8,000 more training places this year. So to do that, we've taken a renewed approach to policy setting, to program design and to skills investment. And that includes these guiding policies that you see here, which are very much in line with federal and national skills reform and are focused around such things as user co-contribution, contestable allocation of funds, making sure that we're getting employment outcomes for the industry and evaluating that to ensure that we continue to get good outcomes, and leveraging investment and service from our strategic partners. We've used those guiding principles to prioritise where we invest the $45 million for this year, and the ATP that you've got in front of you is a reflection of that. So as Paul mentioned, we've got a research area and we look at the market and economic conditions, but we also test that with our industry partners. So this year we used a range of mechanisms to sort of target on a one-to-one, one-to-many and a broadcast approach with our industry consultation. So that included, you may have seen our survey, and we got a response rate of over 900 responses, which we were really happy with as the first time that we've done this type of survey. We ran a series of roadshows in southeast Queensland and also around the region, and we'll be continuing to do that throughout the year. We also took into account our ongoing, the feedback we get from our ongoing networking, and we also talked to our staff about what they knew about the market and also what they knew about our programs and how they were performing. And we did some targeted consultation, one-on-one meetings with key stakeholders, and particularly some targeted stakeholder ATP consultations. All this is reflected in the ATP this year. So you'll notice when you go through it, and I won't go into the detail, as Brett said, this is a bit of a thumbnail sketch and overview of the ATP. But at a quick glance, you'll see that there's no change to our list of programs in there, but you'll find that there's actually a more defined and clearer focus on the policy principles. But we're doing what industry's told us they still want us to do, and that's look at attracting new entrants to the industry, developing and retaining existing workers. So under each of the key activities of attract, develop and retain, they're our key programs, and as I said, I won't go through them in any great detail, but just wanted to point out a few things. In each of those areas, we're making sure that we're not duplicating the effort that other people are making in the market, and particularly the other key purchaser in the market, which is the state government. So, as Brett said, we work really closely with our state government to make sure that we're making the best investment and not duplicating effort. We're also developing better tools and stronger partnerships to inspire and provide pathways for talented people to join the industry. And we're asking industry and individuals to contribute to the training that they value. We're also targeting our incentives to where they're needed most, and we're working with industry to develop strategies to help retain people in the industry. And we're doing that at an employer level, but we want to share the learnings that we are getting from that employer level activity with the rest of the industry. And really importantly, we're evaluating our programs, and we're doing that on a continual basis to make sure that we're continuing to deliver what the industry needs. Another key area, and it's probably a new line you'll see in the ATP, is the area of construction futures. And that captures a few of our activities. So we're continuing our strategic relationships with our major contractors through our major projects team. And we're working with employers and community to make sure that there are no barriers to entry for anyone who wants to come in and have a career with the industry. But we're also looking at pilot projects. So we want to work with stakeholders and some partners on some new and innovative ways to test what's emerging for as skills needs in the industry. So our other key focus this year is harnessing what we know and what our partners know and sharing that with the industry. So we believe that a strong industry relies on having the right information at the right time to help them make the right decisions about their business and about skilling their workforce. So we want to know, and industry wants to know, what are the evolving needs of our industry and what does an appropriately skilled workforce look like. So this year we'll be sharing information, and we'll be doing that in new, more easily accessible and understandable ways. We're going to share our insights with the industry, but also with key policy decision makers on what's impacting on our industry. Undertaking a program of research into such things as BIM and the evolving nature of contemporary apprenticeships and traineeships. And if anyone's interested in BIM and hasn't had a chance to, we've got a research paper that's available on our website at the moment, so please take a look at that. We're also establishing strategic engagement partnerships, so again that we can leverage and work with industry to inform, influence and assist them. And we're evaluating our programs, as I mentioned earlier, and learning and sharing our learnings of pilot projects. So obviously critical to all of this is that we maintain a really good working relationship and that you engage with us and participate with us on this journey. So I encourage you to have a look at the details that are in the ATP, and please contact myself or any other CSQ staff member if you've got any questions around the details, and look forward to working with you throughout the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks to all of our other speakers this morning, so Graham, Brett, Paul and Susan, and thank you all of you for joining us too. It's been great to have you in the room to share the launch. So just to summarise what Susan was talking about, CSQ this year has invested $45 million in training for 2014 to 15, and our focus is still on attracting new entrants and develop and retaining existing workers. We're also encouraging co-contribution, leveraged investment and partnerships and better employment outcomes for industry. And we want to know and share the evolving needs of industry and what an appropriately skilled workforce looks like, and we need your help with that.